nest of any single bird in the world. That's the entrance there that the hammerkorps use. And the hammerkorp is not an enormous bird, but they construct these amazing structures that look like a complete mess. And very often you'll find nests on top of it. You're seeing something in there. Let's see if we can highlight it and see if there's any chicks or babies in there. Doesn't look like it, but you never know. It would be about the right time of year. Awesome. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. The other thing that some hammerkorps do is build... Oh, waterbuck are sparring, sorry. They do build false entrances. There we go. I think that young male finally managed to entice one of the others to battle with him. Oh, and there's a tortoise as well. Big tortoise. Watch out, tortoise, you might get squashed by a waterbuck. And you see how wonderfully placed those ridges are. And it's a way of stopping the horns from sliding too easily down each other, so that they don't accidentally stab the other male. You can hear them clashing. I'm just going to be quiet for one moment. The aim here, of course, is to pin the other waterbuck to the ground. This is just a very gentle sparring session. It's nothing too serious. It's staying practiced so when an actual fight happens, they know how to go about it. You can see them, whenever they rub their faces on each other like that, that's also a way of scent marking the other male. And it's an attempted show of dominance as well, because they do have very potent scent glands near their eyes. They're pretty much equally matched in size, just looking at these two. The one on the left may be ever so slightly bigger, but their horns are roughly the same. It's really... They're stuck. They really do almost look stuck together. They're not. They will be able to slide their way out. They just have to get... There we go. Oh, that was quite a hard hit. Awesome. I've never seen a waterbuck sparring go on for this long. I'm sure this has very strict rules. Now, both of them have forward tilting points. And David, who's watching in the UK, you're wondering if I can explain the reason behind forward-facing... Sorry, let me rephrase that. Forward-facing horns, for example, the reedbuck, or even the waterbuck in this case, versus the backwards-pointing horns of, say, for example, an impala or a kudu. And the answer to that is... not necessarily, unless maybe we look at habitat, and depending on what the animal uses those horns for. But there isn't really a correlation, because reedbuck are live in vegetation that is just as thick as impala and kudu. You give it some thought, David. I'll let you know a bit later on if I've managed to think of any reason. The game is up, though. Sparring is done. It's quite a lot of exertion for a really hot afternoon. I think it's Sunday, a very hot Sunday afternoon. Let's continue on and see what we can find. Let's say, what have you spotted? Oh, hello. Oh, apparently we don't need to go anywhere. The wildlife will come to us. Hello, Cheeky. very itchy behind the ear, and I sympathize with that particular little monkey. At the moment, the ticks and the biting flies are out in full force. Particular is incredibly toxic. So if you ever find yourself in a bush survival situation, which I would deem unlikely, but if you ever do, don't necessarily assume that what monkeys eat is safe for human consumption. Now, Barbara, just to get back to your question, in terms of prey selection, that's the amazing thing about the sort of size difference between a female and a male leopard. So although a waterbuck would be quite outside the realms of a female leopard's kill, unless she was a particularly impressive individual, I would say that a female waterbuck would be, for a male like, for example, the Anderson male, who Brent says is probably the biggest leopard he's ever seen. I still haven't seen him in the flesh, but I have seen photos, and he's absolutely enormous. I'm sure a male like Anderson could take down a waterbuck if he seriously put his mind to it. I mean, there's stories of leopards taking down young giraffe, so anything is possible. I'm still chatting a bit about the waterbuck. Roadblock, ever so slightly. Just casually shift around the elephant blockage. Right, back to the waterbuck. Lynn, you were wondering about the purpose of the white circle of the waterbucks, or on the waterbuck's bottom. Now the traditional story behind that went something along the lines of when the animals all climbed into Noah's Ark, the monkeys painted the toilet seats white, and the waterbuck were the first to fall prey to them. Scientifically, there's not always a universally accepted explanation. A lot of the people say it's what's known as a follow me sign. So when they run away, the white stands out on their backsides and means that the others can follow in a herd. That maybe makes sense if you're looking at something as numerous as an impala, but for waterbuck that are going to try and disappear into thick vegetation, my personal opinion is there's a bit of flash coloration to it as well. So a predator's eye, especially if it sees in black and white, is immediately drawn to that flash of white. So the waterbuck will run in a mad dash into some thick vegetation and then stop and turn around and look at the threat. So the predator's eye will be drawn to where it last saw the white flash, which would mean that it misses the waterbuck by a meter or two and gives the waterbuck a chance to carry on running. Hello, Baba. This place is teeming with babies. One. It's a tough start out here. And we were seeing those male waterbucks play, and Vera is watching in Ohio. Vera was wondering if the animals ever suffer from concussion or brain damage from sparring, and the answer is I think there's a possibility, especially for the buffalo, which is why they've got that incredible bony plate around the base of their horns, that boss, as a way of absorbing impact. I don't think it applies so much with animals like waterbuck or impala, or they spar in a very different manner, whereas buffalo go for quite a run-up. We've seen them lock horns for fun, but when they're really serious about it, they come together with a rather sickening crunch whenever they bash heads, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a level of brain damage, or at least a slight concussion, or maybe just even a headache. I know that a lot of animals, in terms of brain damage, a lot of it happens to the cats. Not necessarily brain damage, but definitely serious concussion comes from cats that have been kicked by the animals that they're trying to hunt. do a quick scout around the airstrip. It's one of the places that Shadow does enjoy being. And I was trying to work out whether after her confrontation with her mom, whether her approach is going to be to stick around the area or to move away as fast as possible. It's a difficult call to make because they were fairly evenly matched. It wasn't a serious discussion or debate. It was more a very subtle warning. While we continue on our search and see if we can find Shadow, let's head back across to Brent and see what he's got to say.
So we are checking the buffer boundary with that slight hope that that male cheetah was found has come across. So no tracks yet, but I'm going to check towards the Buffelshoek waterhole. Maybe it might appear. And it is, even though the cloud covers come in a bit, it is still very warm. And I have been mocked in camp recently, a recent purchase I made, and I purchased this to help me with how hot it is on safari. So here is this little thing, and you pump it for pressure, and then I have them. Oh no, I broke it. Oh no, there's a hole. Too much pump. There we go, and it boundary, but now it's got a leak. It's made.
Well, after that very brief update, where I'm afraid you might have lost Brent in mid-sentence, you're back again with me. And our exploration of the airport. Not the airport, but the airstrip. I believe that Brent was showing you his newest method of keeping cool with his blue misting device, which, as I'm sure many of you can imagine, we find highly entertaining. But having seen it and how well it works at keeping cool on these really hot days, I'm actually quite jealous. Quickly around the airstrip. It's not the most picturesque of areas, but it is a perfect place, and a lot of animals really enjoy being around an airstrip. It's nice and open for them. Hello, lapwings. We've got babies somewhere. You're just telling me to go away. Is there a warthog? I couldn't see what what you were looking at. Oh, there was a warthog. The warthog is now running full tilt away from us. Oh dear. All spotted, wildebeest. There is now a disappearing bottom. We're definitely not going to be able to catch up with him. I was so busy looking around for lapwing babies. The other thing I saw around this airstrip was a black-backed jackal, which was the first and only black-backed jackal I've seen while I've been here. It's incredible to me that they are so unusual in this area. I don't know what it is. The side stripes seem to be much more numerous. The reserve that I was working at, which isn't that far from here, over the past 3 years, it's completely the opposite way around. There's more black-backed jackal than there are side-striped. And I have no idea why there's that skew in numbers and what causes it. There's not much in terms of a difference between the two species. Sure, there's no water here either. I really hope that these clouds that have blown in are bringing some rain. Genevieve, just to continue on the subject of the drought and the dryness, Genevieve was wondering how many animals self-medicate and how much the dryness will affect that. I think that more animals self-medicate than we realize. Elephants definitely do it. If they're not feeling very well, they'll go and eat some tambuti. Porcupines eat the bark of tambuti a lot. It acts as a sort of a cleanser for their digestive system. Baby elephants chew on things like spike thorns and silver cluster leaves as a way of helping with teething problems. But I'm sure that the animals know medicinal uses of plants better than we do and utilize them more than I realize, or more than we realize. Found some more warthogs to make up for the one that got away. Hello, woodies. No, don't run away. Please don't run away. You can stop there. Tail in the air. It's interesting. I think it's the fact more than anything that we've just stopped and are watching them. It's kept them going. Now, that warthog run may look very comical, but I can promise you there's not a single person watching. Oh, you're going to come say hello. It's okay, you can relax now. Promise you, we're not after you. We just want to look at you. Identical stares. But yes, there's not a single person amongst us who could outrun a warthog. They are incredibly fast. That burst of speed. Coming closer now to investigate. Sort of, very timidly. Looks like a male to me. Young male though. Hello. You don't mean you any harm, warthog. Nice to get to see them out in the open. But yes, I promise you the burst of speed that they can get up to when they launch themselves out of their burrows is first of all a fantastic way to test the strength of your heart if you're out walking. Standing in front of a warthog burrow is a very bad idea, and I've had some serious frights from warthogs flying out of them. Hello, piggies. He just grunted at me. The weather's going over the last few days. It builds up on the horizon, but then most of it gets caught up in the Drakensberg Mountains. It doesn't really come anywhere near us. Our warthogs trotted off into the distance. And Sandy in New York, you were wondering how fast a warthog could run. I would say, Sandy, probably somewhere in the region of about 50 odd kilometers at their fastest sprint, which is, hold on one moment, about 20 to 23 miles an hour. Pretty fast, faster than I can run, definitely. You need to be quick when there's things out here that are going to chase you. And generally it's a very sharp burst of speed to a point of safety. But with those razor sharp tusks that they have, act as some serious weaponry. And I'm not talking about the tusks that you can see, the top tusks. I'm talking about the tusks at the bottom that are sharpened to razor edges by rubbing along the bottom teeth every time they close their jaws. Now, what's been phenomenal to watch is a lot of the warthogs are looking incredibly thin at the moment. And although it's not unusual, it's not like the Lion King. Warthogs don't live on bugs, but they do occasionally supplement their diet of roots and plant material with carcasses. They will scavenge off carcasses. But fairly recently I saw a report, and I'm sure many of you did as well, of that warthog that killed a baby impala deliberately and then ate it. And that's a really, really unusual situation. I've certainly never heard of that happening before. And there is a lot to be questioned as to whether or not it's because they're struggling so much with this drought and desperate for nutrients. Because that level of aggression is fairly unprecedented, or at least to my knowledge. And warthogs generally are particularly sensitive, along with buffalo and eland, are particularly sensitive to changes in climate conditions. One animal that is not sensitive to water loss is one that Jared was asking about. And Jared, you wanted to know whether or not we have any meerkats here. Jared, the answer is no, we don't. We do get them in South Africa, but much further west towards the more arid deserty areas. So the Kalahari areas is where they are best adapted. They're in the same family as the mongoose family, so we get the relatives here, the dwarf mongoose, the banded mongoose. They're their closest relatives, and we do see them, and they fill that particular ecological niche in this area. The fascinating thing about meerkats, and I spent quite a long period of time before I went to university observing meerkat behavior, and although they don't need to drink any water, their bodies are so well adapted to extracting every piece of nutrient out of the insects that they eat, all the liquid they need. But if you give them the opportunity to drink water, they will absolutely race towards it and fight over it. It's so interesting to see the way that animals are adapted to the climates that they live in. Bruce, you read my mind. Bruce has mentioned that he hasn't seen many lions recently and was wondering whether it's because they're mainly nocturnal. Bruce, they are mainly nocturnal. That is when they do the majority of their hunting and moving about, when it's a little bit cooler and when they have the advantage of their spectacular night vision to rely upon. That being said, at the moment, there are plenty of lions around here. We're very close to one of the highest densities of lions in Africa. Just at the moment, they appear to have decided to all sort of patrol along the edge of our boundaries, the areas that we can go into, but not quite here. They are around. There's 5 Birmingham boys on the neighbouring property, around Chitwa. So they are around. It's just a matter of them coming towards our traverse area. Speaking about the Birmingham boys, we have a question about whether or not the Birmingham boys are still split up or whether they have been seen together. Listen to that hornbill, it's nice and close. Sorry, I will answer Vern Scott's question about the Birmingham boys in one moment. There it's hiding. Nope. There's something about, well done, Liam. Something about grey hornbills that I just never seem to manage to get them on camera. There we go. It's a nice big specimen. We don't see them as often as we see the red and the yellow billed, so for new viewers, a new addition to your bird lists that we spoke about this morning. then we added the plum-coloured starling or the violet-backed starling. Right, back to the question about the Birmingham boys. What's interesting that's happened, what we've seen play out with the Birmingham boys over the last few weeks or the last few months, is now that they've pretty much established themselves for now as the dominant coalition, there's been a bit of friction between them as they no longer have to band together to chase away any other threats. It's now a question of establishing the hierarchy within the coalition, or at the very least work out who gets access to the ladies. And they've been fighting amongst each other for quite a while. That's pretty common within male coalitions. It's also very common for big coalitions, so sort of talking about 4 or more male lions, to actually split up and patrol separate sections of their territory. At the moment, as far as I know, they're in groups of 2 and 3, but I'm sure we'll find that they'll come together again and then split apart, all depending on whether or not they've killed a big buffalo, or whether there's a female in residence or an estrus. Those are generally the 2 determining factors as to whether or not the Birmingham boys will be together or apart. As soon as another lion coalition starts to call, so if the Matimbas in the south or the Salatu males in the north, if they start to roar, you'll probably find that the Birminghams will join together again, and they might do it every night for all we know. Join up to put on a show of strength while they call, and then split back up again towards the morning. Around in open vehicles, and I know that for a lot of new viewers that might seem a bit concerning. And Julie, you mentioned that earlier this year people have been killed by leaving their car windows open. So what is the difference between what we do and what they do? Julie, as far as I can think of in those specific examples, those lions were not wild lions. They were captive lions that were fed out of the back of some vehicles, and the specific instructions in those areas were to keep those windows rolled up, because the lions in that area didn't have the same natural fear of human beings that they do here. Now, although they are wild animals and they need our constant respect, and we should always remember that just because we know them and we think we know them, it was important to give them that respect and to focus all of your attention and energy on reading their behavior and the signs that the animal is giving you. And that's something that we focus most of our attention and experience on, is watching the little signs of the animal's mood, from a tail flick to an ear flick. But I feel far more nervous driving a car around a city than I do driving our open vehicle out here. The chances of an animal jumping in with us are pretty much next to nothing, because they do have that natural fear. They're also really, really used to safari vehicles driving around them, to the point that they ignore them almost completely. And with elephants here as well, it's very much, I would let an elephant approach my car right to the point that it stands close to the bonnet. But that will be the elephant's choice. It will not be an approach that I will deliberately make. So it's all about a bit of respect and a bit of give and take while you watch the animals out here. Your chances of an attack are incredibly slim. And the amount of wonder that we get to share out here is incredible. I'm going to try and show you some of those now. One of my favorite animals. Probably unlikely to jump into the vehicle and attack us. The smallest predator on the reserve. Hello, little ones. Are you all hiding? They all disappeared. Let's give it one moment. They might pop their heads out, and this is such a perfect situation. I can see, oh, there we go. There's the one a little bit to the right. Popped its head up. Hello. Oh, I heard an elephant. We'll go find them next. 2 little heads. 3 little heads. Good afternoon. Dwarf mongoose. Having chatted a bit about meerkats, and I mentioned that we have their close relatives. Well, these are the perfect example. Hello. 4 little heads. The whole family's come out now, curiously poking their heads out to have a look at us. Now, I mentioned that they are my favorite, or one of my favorite animals out here, and that's because they're always entertaining. They're usually up to mischief or foraging around. At this time of the day, though, they've all rushed back to their various burrows. It's time to start settling down for the evening. Now in this group there'll be an alpha female and an alpha male tucked away in there, and they will be the only pair that breeds. The rest of them will be all focused around helping to raise their babies themselves. Just going to let the Arathusa crowd move past. Alrighty, well, let's continue on our search for other magical little creatures. Bye-bye, dwarf mongoose. Have a good evening. Be careful. Be safe. I think they found a beautiful termite mound spot there. Well sheltered, very protected. Perfect spot. Okay. Year, the temperature and the humidity is absolutely oppressive. We keep having these evenings where it feels like it wants to have a really solid electrical thunderstorm, and it just doesn't happen. Hello, little one. Another example of a beautiful but tiny creature. For Zach, who wanted to know how many antelope species we have, well, we've seen quite a few of them already. This is a tiny little male steenbok. With those shape, he's also being bugged by those biting flies, and I don't blame him. They are incredibly irritating at the moment. Ooh. Well, that was bizarre. He definitely didn't look at us when he ran away. Trying to see if there's any kind of a bird or something that might have given him a fright. When you're that size, and essentially leopard snack size, it pays to be on alert pretty much all the time. I'm not sure what startled him though. Must have been a slight rustle in the grass. I don't see any sign of anything else. Right, now somewhere over here, there is a leopard breaking trees. Not a leopard. Got leopards on the brain. An elephant breaking trees. I definitely heard a crunch of a branch breaking. And I can actually see their tracks on the road. So let's see if we can find a wonderful elephant herd to share with you all. It's been a long time since I've had a nice long elephant sighting. I'm starting to go into withdrawal. I really wouldn't mind spending a bit more time with them. Ah, found him. like a nice big bull. Judging by his tracks, that's what he is. Animals seem to be wanting to hide in thick vegetation. I'm just going to stop so you can see the elephant, so that you don't think I'm completely crazy. There you go. That huge swinging tail. Hello, big boy. Don't you want to come and say hello? Surely you want to be on TV. And he could well be quite thirsty and on his way to water. He doesn't look like he's stopping to feed. Very much on the move. I'm trying to think if there's a way that I can circumnavigate him. There's a nice open patch here, so let's try and go in here. Here he goes. He is a very big male, but he's not going to stop until he gets to until he finds a nice tree that he wants to snack on or some water. Hello, boy. Can we come and say hello to you? Our large bull elephants are probably some of my favorite to spend time with. Here he is. We're getting there. Closer, bit by bit. The wonderful thing about them is that they are usually fairly confident because they're pretty much the biggest things out here. He does look like he might be in must, so we'll give him a bit of extra personal space. For those of you unfamiliar with elephants, the must cycle in males is where their testosterone levels peak. It happens about once a year for these big bulls. It tends to make them slightly more aggressive, or is not too seriously in must. I'm just having a look at the liquid that's dripping down the side of his face. Hello, boy. So when the males go into must, they secrete from the temporal glands, which is what's running down there between the eye and the ear. And both males and females do it, but it's a useful sign in looking for an elephant bull in must. It's a place where they secrete their pheromones and their hormones. There's that incredible, very flexible trunk of theirs. Multi-purpose tool. Almost as impressive as our hands and our thumbs. Hello, boy. He's beautiful. He's still a young bull. He's probably only around 25 to 30. He doesn't have the big, thick tusks of a really mature male. But still perfectly comfortable in himself. Hello, boy. With those enormous cooling ears flapping. And on a day like today, I wish I had that kind of cooling system. Here he's got a V-notch in the bottom of his ear, and each and every elephant has identifying cuts and flaps in their ears, and all that's come from is from walking through areas with thorns, maybe creating a tiny little scratch, and that scratch gets a bit infected and it eats away. Because the skin of the ear is so thin, it eats away a little bit of it before it heals up and clears. Some elephants have really tiny nicks and scratches, some have big cuts, and it'll be something that is with them for the rest of their lives. So if we ever see an elephant with a V in the bottom of his left ear, we'll know that it's this particular male. moving off again. And at the moment, the best view that we have is his bottom. I'm sure that you've all been wondering, while I reposition to try and see the film, I'm sure that you've all been wondering what Brent has been up to, so let's head across and find out.
We've just got a report from James, who is out walking on, he says there were alarm calls on quarantine, so let's go have a look. Impala alarm calling, maybe we'll get lucky. There's an Impala. While we listen, there's a hoopoo dust bathing in the road. Off it goes, African hoopoo. There's that Impala I saw. Maybe they're looking, seems to be looking this way, looking at other Impala. So it's possibly there was another big herd of Impala earlier on the far western, northwestern edge of quarantine. So let's get there and see if we can see what they're looking at and what they were alarm calling at 3 minutes ago. Over there, so I'm just gonna zoot across. Oh, look at that sky. So we're following up on alarm calls that James Henry, and speaking of James Henry, he's calling me on the radio. Western Edge quarantine. So James was the one who told us about the Impala alarm calling. He says they've stopped alarming now. Probably thanks on that little road on the west of quarantine. So James has been checking on foot for the Queen, and hopefully his ears picked up the Impala alarming at the Queen, and he's recommended I go north on this little road. So we're checking very carefully through here. There he is. I'm so busy looking over there. Which Impala? Those ones.
In the sun.
Oh, that's beautiful. Let me just go back a second. And look at that. That just makes an incredible visage. I think James has been running. He's panting on top of that termite mound. So there's Impala.
Calling there. But what they were calling at, I don't know.
Oh, we'll think we'll check around to Zoe's. Where did you run from?
I came from those clearings where the giraffe is.
Oh, isn't that spectacular? Well, we're going to continue checking for the Queen. And we will see you later, Jamesy.
Bye.
Toodles. So I think it's a good idea to check back up on Zoe's, just in case Karula came north of this block. we saw an incredible thing today. Karula blew a spit bubble, and James was wondering, is it not a sign of a respiratory infection? No, James, I think she was salivating quite heavily from having that sort of territorial altercation with her daughter, and I just think while she was growling, she managed to blow that bubble. So don't worry, I don't think she has a respiratory ailment. Well, Brooklyn, it's because at the moment they're competing for the same things, baby impalas and males. So they won't actually physically fight very often. Like if they had been not a mom and daughter, if they hadn't been related, they probably would have had a big fight after meeting. And I think it's just now that she sort of, Shadow has left her mom and has left her mom probably 8 years ago. They don't see each other too often. And the reason her mom won't fight with her is because she knows it's related, so it's her genes that are being passed on. But still wouldn't like her to come too far into the core section of her territory. I don't see any tracks. I'm just going to switch off here and have another little listen. This is a favorite haunt of the Queen of Djuma, this section here, and these drainage lines leading up towards quarantine. Not only am I'm also listening for birds like black-legged testiculars will occasionally alarm call, and a leopard. Hear anything at the moment though. I can hear a resting testicular, and it is alarm calling, so let's go have a look there. Could be a mongoose or a bird of prey, but it's somewhere in this little system here, so let's go around to the other side. Somewhere in here, parlor over there. While we look through this thicket here, Michael would like to know if there's kudu in here as well. Now that's not a good sign. Kudu are generally quite a bit sharper than impala when it comes to spotting predators, and they don't lie as much. So impala, quite often when you hear their alarm calls, they're alarm calling at a ghost. Kudu don't look too stressed at all. It is possible that she might have passed somewhere else where they didn't see her. How those big ears just move around, picking up the slightest little noises in the bush. Well, let's carry on. Though it hasn't been such a hot day, it might be worth checking the Gallagher waterhole. But while we do that, Michael asked the question, if a female leopard was to mate with her father, would the cubs have genetic defects? And it is possible, definitely, Michael, but normally it takes, with leopards and lions, a couple of more generations for it to become more apparent than it does in humans. But yes, that is one of the reasons the male leopards will disperse from their natal area, and that even over time you watch male leopard territories move and change to try avoid mating with their daughters. Again, I don't think they plan to. I think it's the genetics taking over. They're pre-programmed to ensure a healthy population. While we're on the search for leopards, Jared's wondering, what is the biggest prey a leopard would take down? Jared, the biggest prey I know of is an adult male kudu. And that was in the Sabi Sands. I have also seen leopard take sub-adult buffalo out of big buffalo herds, but that is very unusual behavior. And I'm very carefully checking every termite mound, not for James Henry, but for Karula. Most leopards will use them as vantage points while hunting. Always good to have a squiz at the termite mounds. But because it's been quite hot, she might be heading towards Gallagher for an evening sundowner. We're going to go make our way towards the waterhole, and while we do that, let's go look at that spectacular sky with Jamie.
There are not many places in the world where you have sunsets that carry the same depth of feeling that they do out here, particularly when accompanied to the backdrop of the Drakensberg Mountains. And this is really one of the more spectacular ones. And the reason that I say that is there is a sense of expectation in the air as night falls. The prey animals are all on high alert. The predators are starting to come out and move around as it gets a bit cooler. And you get the calls of the woodlands kingfishers as they start to head home for the night. And spectacular to think that the view that you are looking out on is one of the biggest wilderness areas in the entire world. Larger than some small countries. And on evenings like tonight, it's quite easy to transport yourself back to 500, 600 years ago. I imagine that the first people to have roamed these lands must have been as taken by the sunsets as we are. Oh, something that is always worth doing is, no matter how frantic the search for all kinds of wondrous creatures might be, it's something that I always do, is whenever I see a spectacular sunset, unless I'm hot on the tracks of another animal, I always try and stop myself and force myself to have a look at the beauty of an evening like this evening. Right, well, from a spectacular sunset to a spectacular animal, Brent has been successful in his pursuit, so let's head across to him and the Queen of Djuma.
So the Queen has graced us with her presence, and she's behaving a bit more like a queen and not blowing spit bubbles this evening. And look at that, isn't that stunning? Lying up right in front of the Go Lodge, next to the waterhole. So it doesn't look like she managed to catch an impala during the day. But this is one of her favorite haunts around the lodge here. Look at that sky behind her. Isn't this just an incredibly serene sighting? Can you hear all the different birds? The red-chested cuckoo. Jacobin cuckoo calling as well. And crested in the Tel Franklins. So, we were talking about birds giving alarm calls at leopards, and Beth's wondering why would they do that when a leopard won't eat them. I'm afraid, Beth, they will, especially when leopards are young. They spend a lot of time hunting everything they can. And they just don't like predators around, and when they're alarmed at, leopards don't like to hang about, so they move out of that area quite quickly. They prefer to have their presence not known. Absolutely gorgeous animal. Listening to all the sounds that are about. You can see how hot it is by her panting. Very interested to see where she's going to move next. First a bit of preening. You can see that very distinctive sort of nibble, to try to remove ticks and fleas. And I'm afraid not even the Queen of Djuma can escape the ectoparasites. Constantly aware. See how she just checks if she hears a little sound nearby. Well, a big welcome to Anna, who's a new viewer, who's wondering which leopard this is. Anna, this is Karula, the queen of Djuma. And when she turns to face us, you'll see a very distinctive set of spots in between her eyes. And with a bit of imagination, you can see that they spell out the word wow. Oh, it looks like she's going to be up and about. Unfortunately, she is heading into a very difficult area. If she goes directly to the north of us, it's a myriad of little, actually a nightmare of little drainage lines. She decided to go right behind us instead. Scent marking. There are some Nyala down in the drainage line here that we saw earlier. Unfortunately, we are not able to follow her on that path, but we will try to stick with her. We can't get a car through there. So, Rennie in Detroit, because we're probably going to do some off-roading to stick with the Queen, is wondering, what are the rules about off-roading at Djuma? Well, Rennie, basically, you can off-road in most areas. You just don't off-road on seep lines, which is where water naturally moves from the crests through to the drainage systems, or over slow-growing trees like tambuerties and jackalberries, African ebonies, scotias, and all the trees that take a really long time to grow and would be affected. And most of the trees we do drive over, your combretions, your bush willows and that, will actually bounce up if you drive over them correctly by straddling them. Oh, watch out, little guy. There's a leopard around. There's a little scrub here. I've actually seen this one a few times here. I'm just going to unfortunately scoot past the hare because we don't want to lose the Queen. Bye, little one. Okay, so that path she went on goes through there. Pops out at the bottom of this little drainage line. Hopefully she doesn't sneak and go behind us, but I'm hoping she's going to pop out here. So this is where that path comes out. And I've walked through here many times. So we're still checking in here. No, nothing yet. There she is, she's coming. Going to pop out over there. She's just behind these buffalo thorns. There she is. Smelling quite intently there. I'm hoping she comes towards us. I've got a much better chance of sticking with her. If she goes that way where the light's flashing, it's going to be very difficult. We might get another few glimpses of it, but if she, oh, looks like the Queen is being very obliging this evening. She's taking the other path. Oh, she's keeping me on my toes. It looks like she's going to go up to where that scrub hair was. I'm not going to keep the torch on just in case she pops up and spots that scrub hair. It looks like she should pop up right here somewhere. Could of course change her mind. So she was just below that little spot. Chandra showed you that little gap there. Well, it's one of those now. Do I stay or do I go back down the hill? Did she change the direction again? And Karula is one of the only leopards I've followed a lot that does this to me. Most leopards I can generally guess their movements correctly most of the time. Karula is the queen of the zigzag as well as Djuma. There's a lot of debate whether Karula is pregnant or not, and Lynn and Patty are wondering, and I can honestly say, Lynn and Patty, I don't know. If she is, it's still far too early for us to tell. So, the squid's back down here. See anything, Chandra? A little bit higher than me there. And there's Karula's giving us the runaround. So while we try to find her, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Very well, Brent continues on his search for Karula. We are searching for her daughter. And it's the perfect time for them to be out and about, and this is one of her favorite spots. We'll keep our eyes peeled. As I said, these evening times carry with them a wondrous sense of expectation. That is because everything is moving about. And there's a sense within us, a very strong sense, sorry Impala, that I think goes back to some of the baser instincts, that a fear of the dark is actually quite a rational fear when you think about the area that we've come, or at least where we were a couple of 100,000 years ago. Now, for new viewers who are joining us and wondering about the spotlight and the technique that we use, it's because the animals have a layer, reflective layer at the back of their eyes that helps them with their night vision. Oops. Apparently I don't have it because I just hit a termite mound, but we'll gloss over that for now. So they have a reflective layer at the back of their eyes, and it's known as the tapetum lucidum. And it increases all kinds of ambient light by reflecting it back, and gives them the ability to see in the dark. That being said, there are certain daytime animals like the impala and the waterbuck that we've seen today, that although they have that layer, they're not adapted as well to nocturnal living, which is why we don't spotlight them at all, because it actually detracts from their night vision. So it does them damage, and it puts them far more at risk of being hunted than other animals, because it essentially blinds them for about an hour. And I don't mean a quick flash, I mean sitting watching them with the spotlight on them. One of the other things that we're using it for, apart from the lights of nocturnal predators, is to look for things like chameleons that stand out incredibly well as bush babies. I've had very little success in finding Shadow, but the same cannot be said for Brent, so let's head across to him.
Success! Tara spotted her as we were checking. She's moving her way right down to in front of Buyotela camp. Have we heard again? I hope not. She should be right here. There she is. Just going to be on the game drive radio for a second. Whoa! I think that was a snake. Did you see that jump? That was incredible. I think she got a fright from a snake. Sorry, stations. Just confirming. Did anyone copy about the update on Karula? She's on the shortcuts between Gallagher Waterhole and Mvubu Road, heading towards Mvubu. Can't make your way, only station now. Going right behind us. Is she going onto that path? Yes, she is. So we are in the right zone. There's a little sneaky road that we've used to actually view Karula before. It goes along here. So she's being tricky again. I'm not sure whether she's going to go south or north. I think with Karula, it's best to be right behind her. we've actually found it. There's two really big African ebonies on top of termite mounds that we found it at before. This is one of them. Oh, little head scratch. Looks like she might. So yep, scent mark. I just took the light off there. She stopped like she might have heard or seen something. So I don't want to ruin her hunt. She's definitely hunting. Okay, that's why the lights are off. Her body language has changed. There still is a little bit of ambient light. So you can see that. Look at that. You can just see that posture change immediately. There are quite a lot of Inyala and bushbuck in this drainage line. We are right in front of Vuurtele camp. Look at that incredible movement. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So we can't really move the car now. We gotta stay quiet. Make out anything ahead of us. So I'm gonna wait till she moves a safe distance away from us, and then I'm gonna go out of this area and wait on the other side of these thick bushes. But we're going to wait till she moves into this thick bush up ahead. Now look carefully when she moves again. She'll put her back foot in the exact same spot. She puts her front foot to minimize noise while she's stalking. And yeah, little scops owl calling. So she's just laying down now. Still watching intently into that area. Sorry, I apologize. Not a scops owl, a barred owlet. I'm so busy concentrating on Karula. I think it could be Inyala. It could also be bushbuck. There's the owl in the tree above her, or to the right of her. A little bit lower. There we go. Little barred owlet making those wonderful little calls. This is really, really typical leopard hunting behavior. So if she feels she might be spotted, she'll sit stock still till she feels she can move again. And sometimes they can stalk for hours. We're lucky we've still got a little bit of ambient light. Because if it was dark, we wouldn't be able to put any of the lights on and we wouldn't see her, because we don't want to affect what's happening in the hunt. I'm watching her behavior to see if she does sort of give up. And you'll be able to tell from her body language if she has given up on the stalk. Sometimes she might just let the animals move off and try again when they're in a better position. The really exciting thing for all of us is there's a really good chance we're going to be able to find her again on the sunrise safari. We are going to leave her shortly, especially as it's getting dark. This is a thick area. I don't want to affect her hunting. And we're going to hope that she makes a kill and we'll be out at the crack of dawn tracking. Sorry guys, I just got to be on the game drive radio for a second. We're now just to the north of the drainage line in front of Wildtella. So, what an incredible day it's been so far. We had Karula and Shadow together having a little territorial dispute in the morning. We saw the first baby wildebeest. We even saw it got bumped by a buffalo. Isn't that amazing? And beat the pond hippo being chased by an elephant. All in the day's work out here in the bush. But it's been great having you guys with us. And we're going to stay with Karula for the last 2 minutes in case she she's moving. She just got forward. In case she explodes. I can't see anything, but whatever it could be, very close. It's too dark. I can still make her out. A little bit to the left, John. There she is. She just sort of moved again slightly. Just an inch, almost like she's crawling. Oh, picking up her head. She's listening now. Whatever she was probably stalking looks like it's moved a little bit further away. So it's important to watch that body language. It tells you what's going on. So there she goes forward again. So we're just going to sit very quietly. Oh, I wonder what's there. I think we're going to extend by a minute or two, just in case she makes her charge. In case she makes that charge now. Sorry guys, just got to be on the game drive. Just come down on that shortcut to Gallagher Waterhole. Just stand by. She is showing interest in something, so all my lights are off. But you should get us visual from the road. There's a large termite mound with a big ebony on top, and she's just to the south of that. We've still got visual of her stalking. So if you come in Vubu from Gari Dam, and there's that tiny little road that goes to the waterfowl hole in front of Gallagher, off that road. she's moving inch by inch. So we're going to extend for a little bit, just in case she makes that charge in the next minute or two. I can't see or hear what she's talking, but judging from her behavior, it's quite close. Unfortunately, it is getting quite dark. I think I can just make her out. She almost looks like she's in that burst position, about to sort of explode. So we can just make her out. There's not going to be... Oh no, looks like she just gave up. Oh no, it's right in front of me. There's a scrub here, 30 centimeters or less than 1.5 meters from the front of the vehicle. She's actually stalking straight towards the car. There's a little rabbit right next to me, right in front of me. Oh. So the scrub here has been hopping along this game path towards us. So the hare's gone still, Karula's gone still. Oh, isn't that incredible? You can just make out her eyes off the light that is made so you can see me. That is a bit scary looking, isn't it? So she's watching this hare. There's probably 7 meters between her. Oh, she's coming. The hare's keeping still. She's just come forward about 1 meter or 2. It's down to about 9 meters between her and the hare. Oh, this is so exciting. It's almost incredible how silently both these animals can move through the bush. She's gone still again. Look at those eyes. She's staring directly at the hare. I mean, there is quite a good chance she might grab the scrub hare. It's, 8-9 meters. Scrub hares do have that incredible hearing. It's not looking in her direction, it's facing away from her. But she is being very cautious with this stalk. Firm, keep coming, sort of heading towards Gallagher Camp. You should see us just to the west of the large termite mound with the jackalberry. She's busy stalking a scrub hare. We've killed Light. She was about 8 meters from it. Lost decent visual. She's gone still again. I can't really see the hair as it gets darker. I know more or less where it is. I can just make out some of it. Oh, a branch just fell out of the knobthorn tree. The hair is still there. This is one of those moments that I talk about where patience is key. And we can barely see what's going on, but still it's just so exciting. we literally cannot move. The hair is 1.5 meters off the front of the bonnet, and Karula is about 8 meters from the hair. I can just make out the hair. I can just make out the hair. We've still got those peering eyes. I know it's a leopard, but it does sort of remind me of that wonderful poem. Just change the tiger part, or to leopard burning bright in the forests of the night. That's incredible. Oh, she just blinked. Isn't that amazing? So just that little bit of light that we use so you can see us in the vehicles, it's not affecting the other things around. Oops. Button. Sorry, I just need to use the camera again. Yeah, Tax, sorry. We've got Karula just in front of WildEarthTV camp. Oh, the hare's run away. She's coming. The hare's literally now 1 meter from my arm. She's running right next to the car. Look at that. She's still after the hare. The hare's right behind us. We're just going to have to sit and listen now. Tax, we've got Karula in front of WildEarthTV. Scent marking. I affirm you should see this big jackalberry and a termite mound. We're right there. She's just given up the stalk. The hare ran into the drainage line. So I'm going to turn on all my lights now. You should get my position. So wasn't that absolutely exciting? And unfortunately for the Queen, she didn't get any luck there. But we're definitely going to be checking this area with a fine-tooth comb for the morning. But from myself and from Jamie, thanks for joining us, and have fun with Scott and James. And it is a very sad day today. We're saying goodbye to Tara for a short time, and we're all going to miss her and hope she comes back very, very soon.